Recording now. So again, thank you guys so much for coming to today's class. As I mentioned, this is the second class of More Mediterranean diet, so we can continue our conversation on how to incorporate more Mediterranean style. One of the chat questions here was, you weren't able to attend the Mediterranean class in the month of May. That recording is available on the Bronson Health YouTube channel. So you can watch that at any time. We go over a little bit more of the research behind the Mediterranean diet than we're going to today. So all of that content is available in the YouTube video, and the recipes are on the YouTube video as well. However, if you've been to one of our virtual healthy living classes in the past, you also know that on the Bronson Health website, if you search within the website, Bronson Eats, so Bronson, E-A-T-S, Bronson Eats. If you search that, it will take you to a very specific nutrition portion of the Bronson Health website. And we have a class summary for every one of the classes that we have done recently. So it will just give an overview and written text, like a handout of sorts, of what we covered in that class. Any links to resources for recipes will also be on that summary sheet. So hopefully that answers that for you, Jill. All right, so again, when we start all of our classes here, we want to make sure that you guys are all aware of the resources that we have here at Bronson to find care and help. The first option that I am going to share with you there is how to really find either a primary care provider or maybe a specialist. And maybe you're looking for a gastroenterologist or an endocrinologist. You can go to the bronsonhealth.com website under the Find a Doctor feature. Or if you don't use the internet all that much, then you can just call our care advisor number at 269-341-7788 and let them know what you're looking for. If you're looking for a primary care provider, you can search that on the website. You can search it down to those that are only accepting new patients at that time. You can narrow it down by zip code so you can find a provider that is closest to you. If you use Bronson Services, you know that we have MyChart available. So you can access some of your personal medical records, get information on lab results and test results. And if you ever need help with MyChart, our Bronson Health Answers department is available Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, to assist you with any questions that you might have with MyChart. If you need any sort of billing or payment plan, we have Bronson Patient Accounting available 8:30 to 5:30, Monday through Friday. Phone number is listed there on the screen. And the last service I want you guys to be aware of is that we have an estimator tool, a price estimator tool at Bronson. You can do that again through the care advisors or through MyChart. If you've been referred, let's say for an x-ray or an MRI, and you're like, oh, I want to know how much this is going to cost me out of pocket after insurance, they can, that service can kind of give you an estimate of what to expect before going through with that service. Oh, Catherine, I see your face. Hello. All right, very good. All right, so today's objectives in our class is that we're going to review the basics of the Mediterranean diet. We did do some of that in the first session of the Mediterranean classes, but for those of you that didn't get to attend that class, let's review that again. We're going to go over what the basics of the Mediterranean diet are, and hopefully you're going to walk away from this class learning at least 3 new ways in which you can follow this Mediterranean style of eating within your own home and not have to be living in the Mediterranean area, right? And then one of the biggest concerns that kind of came up in the last class was like, how do we eat out? How do you dine out and still follow those Mediterranean diet principles? So we're going to spend a little bit more time identifying meals that you could choose while dining out that kind of fit that Mediterranean diet style, okay? So I want to hear from you guys first and foremost. What is one thing you already know about the Mediterranean diet? So you can unmute yourself and share out loud with the group. You can type it in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. What is one thing you already know about the Mediterranean diet? I'll leave you guys to take a second to unmute and share or type your answers in the chat.
Not one thing.
Not one thing. Great, Catherine. I'm so happy to have you. So we get one chat answer that says lots of vegetables in the diet. It can help with fertility issues, somebody says. Olive oil is good for you. Somebody says good fat. Very good. Anybody else want to share? Fresh fruits and vegetables, low fat and seafood. Okay. What else do we know here in this group?
Okay, I take that back. I have heard it's one of the very best diets, but other than that,
there you go. All right, so we know it's rated good, that's for sure. Yes, it is winning awards year after year as being the best overall diet, a very heart-healthy diet, a diet that is good to follow for diabetes as well. And so we know that there are lots of benefits there, and you guys have got some good information in the chat there too about what a Mediterranean diet includes. All right, I'm seeing the chat slow down, so we'll continue. Thank you guys for sharing. So again, if you want to know a little bit more about the details of the research, I'm going to have you go to the first Mediterranean diet class. If you go to the Bronson Health YouTube page, our class video was called Mediterranean in the Month of May. That is the YouTube title for that class. So that one goes over a little bit more of the research. Today, I'm just summarizing it, okay? So Catherine shared that Mediterranean diet is one of the best diets. It is rated year after year as being really #1 best overall diet. It is linked to a decreased risk of the development of heart disease and diabetes. However, let's say you're currently living with heart disease or diabetes, it is still a really good diet to follow. It has been linked to research as being very brain and gut health friendly. The diet, and some of you guys have mentioned this in the chat, includes a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. And we know those fruits and vegetables, whole grains and beans contain a lot of these prebiotics, which are really just kind of the food for the probiotics, that good gut bacteria, to really help our overall microbiome and gut health in general, which has been linked to improved brain health in the long term. So, you know, as we all know with medical research, they're still doing additional studies on this area, but it has been linked to improved brain and gut health as well. And then because it is so high in nutrients with all of those fresh foods, it's also been linked to a reduced risk of development of certain types of cancers too. Again, just a quick overview of the research and the benefits in following a Mediterranean diet. Judy, I see you unmuted. Did you want to share something?
I didn't make it to the first class, so all of it is new to me.
Great. Happy to have you, Judy. Thank you so much. Now, I realize that this pyramid looks a little small potentially on your screen. This pyramid is from Old Ways. So if you've never been to the Old Ways website, it's just oldwayspt.org. And Old Ways is a really good resource that I encourage you guys to take a look at. It does have recipes available, but it really looks over the traditional style diets, right? So it goes over African heritage diet. It also gives a really good overview of the Mediterranean diet. So I've pulled this pyramid from oldwayspt.org. And, you know, maybe you're familiar with the food pyramid that we had here from the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA. We don't use that diet pyramid anymore, but the Mediterranean diet can really be summarized by this pyramid, in which we see at the very tippy top point of this pyramid, I'll go over it real quick if it's too small for you guys, is meats and sweets, right? And by meats, we're talking about red meat. So a lot of beef, processed foods like bacon or bologna and sausage, and then all of the baked goods that have a lot of added sugars. So sweets and desserts like pies and cakes and cookies. It's at the very top point of that pyramid, because in the Mediterranean diet, those are just used way less often. A tier down from that, we see poultry, eggs, and cheese, okay? So chicken, turkey, cheese, yogurt, maybe a little bit of milk in there. Again, that is one rank lower. It is used sometimes, but in very moderate portions. From there, we're starting to get the larger emphasis of what the Mediterranean diet is, right? So you can see that the main meat protein is fish and seafood. So fish and seafood, really great sources of those omega-3 fatty acids, those unsaturated fats, but also can be really lean, so low-fat protein choices. That is the primary meat protein in the Mediterranean diet. From there, what's the biggest emphasis? You guys kind of hit the nail on the head with in the chat, right? We see a lot of fruits, we see lots of vegetables, we're seeing a lot of whole grains and beans. We're going to get and talk about those specifics, but you can see that that is what most of the meals and snacks are based upon, right? So we've got a meal that's mostly fruits, vegetables, whole grain beans, with just a small amount of meat, right? It looks a little different than the primary way that westernized societies tend to fill their plate. But even from there, the next biggest section is people together and eating together and socializing and being active. Healthy lifestyles is a big component of the Mediterranean diet too. So again, I'm not using the word diet as far as a very restrictive way of eating, but really an overall lifestyle of socializing, eating with friends, being active, sitting less, eating lots of fresh produce, less meat. You can see that the beverage of choice within the Mediterranean diet is water, right? There's no sugar sweetened beverages, no sodas, no lemonades, no sweet teas listed here. Primary beverage of choice is water within the Mediterranean diet. And then one of the main components, I'm surprised you guys didn't say it in the chat actually, is a little bit of wine. Okay, so in the Mediterranean area, red wine specifically is used in moderation, and I'm going to hit a little bit more on that later. So this is just a good overview visually to understand what the Mediterranean diet is. Again, if you want additional recipe resources and information, highly recommend the Old Ways PowerPoint, okay? So again, lots of plants, right? All the meals are primarily plant-based. We do see fish and seafood as being the primary meat protein. Now, if you look at the Mediterranean diet resources, you know, they spell out the use of albacore tuna, salmon, herring, sardines, cod, flounder, shrimp, right? We know how important it is to be eating fatty fish 2 to 3 times per week. But we obviously also know that some of these fatty fish, particularly tuna that we use commonly here, can be a concern as far as the mercury content is concerned, okay? So with that recommendation, light tuna, if you're going to be buying canned tuna, light tuna, packed in water is going to be your best choice as far as the lowest mercury content of tuna. Albacore tuna is significantly higher in mercury. And so in order for us To achieve the goal of eating 2 to 3 servings of a fatty fish like tuna and salmon per week, we're going to have to choose light tuna as being, some of those 2 to 3 servings, right? If we're eating 2 servings of light tuna per week, we're not exceeding our mercury content limitations, okay? Salmon, herring, sardines, cod, flounder, shrimp are all lower in the mercury, so they would fall essentially in the same category as the light tuna. Cod, shrimp, flounder, maybe you're using tilapia. Those fish are good choices for being a good lean protein source. They can definitely be included in your 2 to 3 times per week. Just know that they do not have high omega-3 fatty acid content. So if you're not eating a lot of fish, like you're just one of those people that I just do not like fish very much at all, you can get those omega-3 from other sources. You can get omega-3s from like chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts. Those are other good sources to include in your diet if you're not much of a fish eater. Again, there is room for poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. You can see that poultry, like chicken and turkey, we're using skinless options. The yogurt is not the sugar sweetened yogurt blended with fruit, right? It is plain Greek yogurt. Plain yogurt is not going to have those extra sugars in there. If you remember back to the pyramid, all those extra sugars are considered sweets. And at the very top of that pyramid, they're not using a lot of those extra sweeteners and sweets. So plain Greek yogurt, it's going to be a higher protein content yogurt. And so that's always a good choice as well. The cheeses used in the Mediterranean diet are ricotta, feta, and goat cheese. Pretty strong flavored cheese, so don't usually need a whole lot of these cheese choices and using them in the dishes. And again, it's moderate portions, maybe once a day up to a few times a week of using poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. All right. And then somebody said olive oil, lots of olive oil. Olive oil is a really great choice, and it is one of the primary components of the Mediterranean diet. Recommendations for olive oil is that you would be purchasing extra virgin olive oil, making sure that the label says cold pressed olive oil. I know that when we go to the grocery store, we've got lots of options for olive oil available to us. Olive oil does not have a high smoke point, which means that olive oil is not a good choice for frying food, okay? Extra virgin olive oil can be and should be used really when you're serving something like cold, right? So you're adding it to a vinaigrette to go on top of a salad. You're adding olive oil to maybe some pasta, maybe a pasta salad. You're using it as a, olive oil also, an extra virgin olive oil can be used for light sauteing, right? So you're just going to saute some vegetables. It can be used there too, but olive oil is not a good choice for frying. Not that frying is a large component of the Mediterranean diet. One of the questions in the chat is, what about grapeseed oil? Grapeseed oil is another good unsaturated fat that can be used just in place of olive oil. But olive oil in the Mediterranean is the primary source of added fat, right? So they're not using margarine, they're not using much butter, they're cooking with olive oil. But you can get those other unsaturated fats too. Somebody in the chat said lots of good fats. That's absolutely correct. You can get these good fats from other oils like canola oil or vegetable oil are good options for for unsaturated fats, maybe a little bit more economical, but just not 100% part of the Mediterranean diet. Red meat and processed meat, again, if you just think about that pyramid, it was at the very top, right? Maybe once a week, they're using a red meat or some sort of a processed meat. It is not a large component at all These sorts of meats tend to have a lot of sodium and obviously a lot of saturated fat. If we are choosing something like having a steak maybe once a week, you would use those same recommendations in which you're cutting off any visible fat. You're choosing the leanest cut of steak that doesn't have any marbling through the steak. You're choosing the leanest ground beef, maybe a 90-10 or a 97-3 percentages when it comes to red meat. I've got a couple other questions. So Judy says, what about avocado oil? Absolutely. You can totally use that. Again, olive oil is the primary choice in the Mediterranean diet, but avocado and grapeseed oil are also good to have in the pantry and use too. And then somebody asked about dairy intolerances. So going back to the cheese and yogurt conversations, what if you're lactose intolerant or have a milk allergy? Can you use a non-dairy alternative? Absolutely. So there are soy yogurts available that have the higher protein content that would be more nutritionally comparable to just a regular dairy yogurt. If you're going to use something like an almond yogurt, that is acceptable too. You might just end up adding a little extra protein as a choice. Maybe you're doing almond yogurt, you've got berries, but you're going to add some extra nuts too, just to really ramp up that extra protein and unsaturated fats. But again, if it's plain and doesn't have that extra sugar in it, it's going to be an okay choice. All right, and then desserts, again, very top of that pyramid. They're not using those added sugar cakes and those sorts of things very often at all. And their primary dessert option is going to be fresh fruit and the use of those natural sugars as a dessert option. All right, so quick overview of the Mediterranean diet. I want to hear from you guys. Unmute and share if you'd like to. If not, go ahead and put it in the chat. I want to hear from you guys. What is your favorite way to use fatty fish like tuna or salmon? Again, keep it in the chat or unmute and share with the group.
I cook salmon in my air fryer.
It works great in the air fryer. That is my preferred way to do it as well. I struggle cooking salmon otherwise in the oven. I always end up overcooking it, right? But in the air fryer, it just turns out perfect.
And it's quick.
And it was so quick, right? 7 minutes, 425, perfect. Poached salmon. I do not think I've had poached salmon before. So thank you for bringing that up. Air fryer salmon, so we got a second for that. Tuna on a salad, yes. What else do you guys got? What's your favorite way of using tuna or salmon? Somebody made a yummy Tuscan salmon pasta dish this week. So I don't know what was in that, Nikki. I'd love for you to expand. I'm thinking like sun-dried tomatoes. I'm thinking like Parmesan spinach. Am I right? Somebody says they're using tuna patties. Yep, salmon patties too. All right, you guys got all the classics. I love it. All right, very good. We will move on. All right, so now that we kind of have this understanding of what the Mediterranean diet looks like, right? The base is fruits, vegetables, grains, and beans. I want to hear from you guys. Again, put it in the chat, unmute. Now that you kind of know this overview, how would you make this breakfast more Mediterranean-like? Okay, so what you're seeing in front of you is 2 eggs, some bacon, we've got white toast with butter. How can we use this very traditional breakfast that we eat, right? How can we make this more Mediterranean? What changes can we make? What things can we add? I want to hear from you. What would you do?
Whole grain avocado toast.
Oh, okay. So you got whole grain bread, and instead of butter, you're either doing sliced avocado on top or mashing up some avocado and spreading it on top. Perfect. You got your grains. We got a unsaturated fat, so that's very heart healthy in the avocado. Plus, avocado is very good in fiber too. All right, another suggestion is remove the bacon, use whole grain bread with avocado. Classic. Somebody says add fruit. Yes. What else do you guys got? Eggs scrambled with spinach, rye toast, spread with garlic hummus. Ooh, that sounds yummy. So eggs scrambled with spinach, right? So because we can still use eggs in the Mediterranean diet, it really is a good source of protein. We added vegetables to that, right? So spinach, tomatoes, mushrooms, onions, green peppers, whatever you love there. Rye toast being a whole grain choice, and then garlic hummus. So garlic for good flavor. Hummus is made from garbanzo beans, or chickpeas might be another word that you've used. It's the same type of bean. Hummus is very prevalent in the Mediterranean diet. It's bean-based. It includes olive oil, and it can be flavored in any way, like garlic or roasted red pepper. You can just have plain. When you're making it yourself, you can obviously just change that up however you want to. So we got protein in that. We got vegetables there. We got even more protein and fiber from the hummus. We got a whole grain bread. That was a great suggestion. Can add a little fruit to that too, maybe some berries or some sliced apples. Absolutely. Anybody else have any suggestions? They're good ones. All right, let's look at some more breakfast options. So here are some breakfast ideas that I came up with. Things that we likely readily have available at home currently or in our pantries, but how can we put them all together to make it more Mediterranean-like, right? We don't live in the Mediterranean. We don't have access to all the foods that maybe they have access to, but we can really combine the concepts and use the things that we have in our pantry, okay? So again, think, how can I get most of my meal to have grains, beans, fruits, or vegetables? That's what I'm really ingraining in with you guys today, okay? So here we have old-fashioned or a steel-cut oat, which is a whole grain, a great fiber source, which has been connected to, decreased cholesterol levels. It's more blood sugar friendly. And we're adding some of those omega-3 fatty acids from the chia seeds or the flax seeds. We're getting fruit in with berries or whatever it is that you like to add, maybe some peach slices to your oatmeal instead. And then again, we're adding more heart healthy and proteins from the nuts, whatever types of nuts. Maybe you like peanuts, maybe you like slivered almonds, whatever your choice is, they're all really good options as long as you're having an unsalted nut to that. We brought up Greek yogurt earlier. Again, it's plain, right? We've added a little honey for the added sugar component. Maybe you like a little maple syrup instead. Maybe you don't even need that extra sugar. That's okay too. I love plain Greek yogurt. I like the tang. Some of them people don't like that kind of tanginess. And if you need to add a little honey or maple syrup to that as a natural source of sugar, totally acceptable. Again, whatever fruit you want. So maybe berries, slivered almonds. Maybe you're buying a granola, looking for a reduced sugar version granola. It'll say, maybe 50% less sugar or reduced sugar right on your package of the granola. We've got another suggestion here, a fruit smoothie with plain Greek yogurt and chia seeds or flaxseed. Absolutely good. And those flax seeds really need to be ground up. So flax seeds are really challenging for our body to digest and us really get the good nutrition from the flaxseed if they are in whole version. So whether you're buying flax seeds and maybe just running them through a blender or a food processor to grind them up a little bit, or buying them ground up, that's going to be your best choice. And then she's saying, hey, why not add some spinach to that too? All right, whole grain toast, you got that one, so I won't go over that one again. And then sometimes we just need a quick grab and go breakfast, right? So a banana and some no sugar added peanut butter, fruit, unsaturated fats, protein. Peanut butter isn't necessarily used a whole lot in the Mediterranean diet, but it's something that we have readily available that still hits on the same concepts of the Mediterranean style diet. And again, veggie omelet, right? Spinach, tomato, mushrooms, whatever your vegetables are of choice, and getting a little of that feta cheese included in there too. Question in the chat says, is almond milk okay as a smoothie instead of Greek yogurt? Yeah, if you like your smoothie to be a little bit thinner, and instead of using yogurt, you want to use a milk, either dairy milk or a plant-based milk substitute, that's totally fine. It's just going to be a little bit thinner. You could use a combination of even like a almond yogurt and then thin it out a little bit with the almond milk. So whatever consistency you want, that's totally acceptable. All right, let's do lunch now, you guys. So how would you make this lunch more Mediterranean? Classic, hamburger, French fries. What do we do? How do we make it more Mediterranean? Unmute and share or type your answer in the chat.
I'm a vegetarian, don't eat red meat, I should say, anymore. So a salmon patty and maybe again, some of that sliced avocado, keep the lettuce and the tomato, but, and no cheese for me.
Absolutely, fine, yeah, salmon patty. Still got your lettuce and tomato on there, add avocado, perfect. What would you do for your side? Got another suggestion in the group, whole grain bun or wrapped in lettuce. Okay, side salad in place of fries, absolutely. So again, oh, Gail, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, quinoa,
Quinoa.
quinoa with some cucumber and onion and tomato in it with balsamic.
Yes, very good. Balsamic vinaigrette, some sort of an olive oil based dressing for those side salads, not cream based, right? So branches out, but a vinaigrette in its place, whether that be a strawberry vinaigrette or more of a savory vinaigrette, whatever your preference is. Now, obviously, maybe we're not getting a salmon patty and quinoa when we go out for lunch, especially at a fast food restaurant, but we could do the whole grain bun or the salmon patty if we're at home. We could have the hamburger patty, you know, wrapped up in a lettuce wrap instead with our avocado slices and our tomato in there. Somebody else says a plant-based burger with tomato and lettuce, salad rather than fries. Absolutely. Plant-based burgers tend to be very bean-based, so that could totally be a choice. One of my recipes that I'm going to share with you guys in a little bit is a sweet potato and black bean burger. So that could be a choice again. It's like the burger, but it's more plant-based, right? I mean, that's what we're thinking about here. So good suggestions, you guys. Here's some more lunch ideas, right? How can we make the things that we typically eat more Mediterranean-like? Okay, so here are my ideas. A rice and bean bowl, right? And it doesn't even have to be rice. It could be white rice, it could be brown rice, it could be wild rice with whatever type of beans. It could be black beans, it could be garbanzo beans. You can mix that up however you want to. Maybe it's not rice, maybe it's a different whole grain. Quinoa got brought up. Quinoa is really good source of fiber and protein and really can be used in any recipe that has rice. So nutritionally, it kind of outbeats that rice. Bulgur is another whole grain that can be used quite often in the Mediterranean style diet. So bulgur, B-U-L-G-U-R. If you've heard of tabbouleh, then bulgur is the grain that's used in tabbouleh. And so Quinoa can be used here with beans. Tabbouleh, or I'm sorry, bulgur can be used with beans. Add a little bit of grilled chicken. Maybe you're going to be doing your steak that day. That's fine. Maybe you're not even eating meat right now. Honestly, you've got enough protein in all those beans. If you're doing a rice and bean blend, you don't have to have any sort of extra meat there. Add veggies, add your guacamole. You got yourself a build your own, rice and bean bowl. Think things like, things that you might order from like a Qdoba or something like that. Tuna salad, right? We know that we can do that light tuna canned in oil. We can mix it with olive oil. You can do that. You can do tuna salad with olive oil. You can put your celery in there or whatever types of, shredded carrot, whatever you want in your tuna salad. Put on some whole grain crackers, some extra side veggies like carrot sticks, celery, raw broccoli, and hummus as a dip, some berries on the side. Our next lunch idea is a salad, right? So we've got maybe a spring mix or a spinach salad, whatever fruit we want on there. I've got strawberries here. Maybe you add a little bit of grilled chicken. If you're not eating a lot of meat and you're trying to make that more plant-based, you could totally add garbanzo beans here. I think that would be mild enough to pair with strawberries and almonds or pecans. Add a little feta cheese, make yourself a homemade vinaigrette. Again, just olive oil, maybe a little apple cider vinegar. You could add a little Dijon mustard. You can add a little honey to make it a little bit sweeter, or a sweeter salad like this that's got fruit on it. And then tuna boats. I don't know if anybody's done this before. This is something I just made in one of my other classes, tuna boats. So you peel the cucumber and you just carve out the inside of the cucumber, take out all the guts and the seeds, right? And you got yourself a little cucumber boat. You could do this with an avocado as well. And this is just a blend, again, of your canned tuna, light tuna. Put in some of those white kidney beans or cannellini beans, add a little olive oil, Dijon mustard, a little salt and pepper, or whatever seasonings you want. Mix that up, stick that right in your cucumber or your avocado, and that's a really good healthy lunch there too. All right. What about dinner? How would you make this dinner more Mediterranean? We've got steak and loaded baked potato. Answer in the chat or unmute and share. How would we make this dinner more Mediterranean? So we've got changing that loaded potato to a sweet potato. Somebody says salmon in a baked sweet potato. Salmon and baked potato baked sweet potato is a really good start. Let's not forget that extra vegetable too. And let's also just make a note that that steak is kind of big, right? Whenever we're having meat sources, we don't want that meat to take up half of the plate in the Mediterranean style diet. We are doing meat that is in moderate portions, which they would consider to be about 3 to 4 ounces, or about the size of your palm, maybe a deck of cards, if that's a better visual for you. So you could probably cut that steak in half, because again, there's room for that, maybe once a week. 3 to 4 ounce piece of steak, have a sweet potato, get that roasted broccoli in there, maybe some asparagus in there too, just so we've got, again, a good abundance and majority of our plate being vegetable. And yes, the potato is considered a vegetable right along with that broccoli and asparagus. We can change out the steak to salmon. Again, it doesn't always have to be salmon and tuna. It could be cod or tilapia. If you've got that in your freezer and available, that could be a choice too. Good job. All right, here's some other ideas. You guys have already talked about salmon. You guys have talked about a quinoa salad. There's a really good quinoa salad recipe in the class summary from the class that I did in May. So take a look at that quinoa salad recipe. whatever roasted vegetables, or if you're going to just do a light saute, we've got zucchini in season right now, summer squash, red peppers, orange peppers. You can put all those together, maybe even with some mushrooms, and you could do a light saute on those and make that be half your plate. There's a lot of kebabs in the Mediterranean diet. So again, thinking of a kebab, right? We've got maybe 2 or 3 shrimp on a kebab, and then it's mixed with a bunch of roasted vegetables too. We've got 2 or 3 chunks of beef. Again, majority vegetable. Meat is just there for flavor, a little bit of protein, but that majority is vegetables. We got salad on the side, maybe some roasted potatoes or rice with those kebabs. This is that bulgur bowl I was telling you guys about. So tasteofhome.com is one of the resources that I'm going to share with you guys. They've got so many good, classic, highly rated Mediterranean diet recipes. But if you search this one in particular, the bulgur bowl is using bulgur, which again is just another grain. You can find it in the rice aisle at the grocery store. Cooks just like rice, needs a little bit more water when cooking, just a little bit more time, but it's a really great fiber and protein source. Bulgur mixed with chickpeas as your good protein source. We got tomatoes, spinach, feta, hummus, a little bit of mint is used a lot in the Mediterranean diet, some lemon juice, and the seasonings that were used in this recipe were cumin and a little bit of salt. The sweet potato and black bean burger recipe that I talked about earlier, again, still having like that burger concept, just changing out that patty from red meat to vegetables, right? Sweet potato and black bean mix, a side salad with olive oil dressing. So those are some more dinner ideas that I came up with for you guys. All right, so we have gone over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I want to hear from you in this poll question that you're going to see popping up on your screen, hopefully. Which meal are you going to be working on making more Mediterranean? Right, most of you guys have answered the poll, and it looks like dinner's the winner. So most of you guys, almost 60% of you guys are going to be working on dinner. I am so glad to hear that none of you are just not quite sure yet which one you guys can work on. So winner is dinner. Very good, very good. Dinner is a classic one. It's the one that somebody says, I seriously need help. All meals, absolutely, right? We can make all our meals more Mediterranean. But when we think about goals, we got to start slow. And sometimes it's just easiest to pick that one meal that we are going to focus on making more Mediterranean. Once we got that down, now we can start looking at those others too. All right. So what do we do for snacks? I think we've hit most of the main concepts as far as the foods used in the Mediterranean diet. So again, just some pairing for ideas of snacks. We've got, again, maybe a low-fat string cheese. I understand that mozzarella maybe isn't a big choice in the Mediterranean diet, but it is something that we readily have available in the grocery stores. So string cheese and berries, maybe if you're hungry, string cheese, berries, and some nuts too. You can make yourself a little bit of a trail mix with unsalted nuts and some dried fruit, dried blueberries, maybe some dried cranberries, whatever your preference is there. You can buy those reduced sugar as well. Again, making yourself a little bit of a yogurt parfait. So Greek yogurt, a little honey, some chia seeds, maybe some diced apples, throw a little cinnamon on top. That sounds good. It's about to be fall, right? Banana or apple with some peanut butter. Who's had roasted chickpeas? Those are delicious. Why do you think honey is better than sugar? I mean, essentially it's the same thing, right? So the question is, why do you think honey is better than sugar? Sugar, as far as white sugar is concerned, and honey, they're both sugar sources. Our body doesn't necessarily know the difference between the two of those things. It's all going to digest the same. Honey may have some other more like antioxidant type properties. So honey may be used more in the Mediterranean diet than regular just white sugar. If you don't have honey on hand, please do not, shy away from maybe adding a little bit of extra sugar if that's what you wanted. I'm not sure what you were going to add that to. Oh, the plain Greek yogurt and honey with chia seeds. I mean, I've never added straight sugar to yogurt before. So I guess if you needed a little bit of a flavored yogurt, you could totally do a flavored Greek yogurt, lower sugar there, and just do chia seeds and diced apple instead of adding honey or sugar. But honey just has a little bit more nutritional properties than white sugar. Roasted chickpeas are a really good crunchy snack, a good replacement maybe for potato chips. If we're looking for kind of that salty, crunchy snack item, you can make these at home. Roasted chickpeas can go perfectly in the air fryer. If we're using the oven, just low and slow. Again, you can use a can of chickpeas, lay them out on some paper towel and just dry them really well. Toss them with a little olive oil. And whatever seasoning you want to. Maybe it's just salt and pepper, maybe it's some garlic powder and paprika, whatever your preference is there. A really good crunchy snack. Can also be good substitute for like croutons on a salad. So you can get that crunchy component. And then veggies and hummus, just another classic choice there. Again, you can make your own hummus, you can buy that. Either way is a good choice. All right, so we are at 9:51 and just have a few minutes left. So I want to hit on these topics for you because this is one of the main things that came up was how do we do this Mediterranean diet when we're eating out? Obviously, there are some Mediterranean Mediterranean restaurants in our areas, but maybe we don't always have access to. Like I'm in Battle Creek, I don't really have a Mediterranean diet and Mediterranean restaurant in Battle Creek here right now. So if I were to go to a Mexican restaurant though, right? No, maybe there's not specific Mediterranean foods, but think, how can I make most of this meal? How can I choose from this menu a meal that has mostly vegetables, essentially, right? Vegetables, grains, beans, fruit, right? So if I'm going into a Mexican restaurant, shrimp or chicken fajitas is going to be a really good choice. Yes, those tortillas probably are not going to be whole grain. I understand that, right? Again, we kind of have some limitations potentially when we're dining out, but we've got that lean protein choice with chicken or shrimp, and we've got a whole lot of vegetables there. If we're going to an Italian restaurant, maybe we're choosing maybe a pasta dish that's very tomato based, or it's got an olive oil sauce rather than a cream based sauce. It's got lots of herbs and onions. There's a lot of artichokes at Italian restaurants with olives and capers. Those are all really good choices within the Mediterranean diet. Maybe it's some sort of a margarita version pasta dish, or maybe they've got one of the margarita flatbreads on the menu. Tomato sauce, olive oil, mozzarella cheese, basil. Again, mostly vegetables there. That can be a fine choice too. Some of these things that we've already talked about in the previous lunch and dinner ideas, but let's say you're going to a chain like Applebee's, right? There's always a salmon, mashed potato, and broccoli on the menu, always, usually, right? So that can be a fine option. If you're looking at the salads, strawberry balsamic chicken salad can be an option. The grilled chicken salad can be an option. Those three items right there are straight from the current Applebee's menu. I will say though, right, these have the Mediterranean style concepts as being mostly vegetable based with a little bit of meat protein. But when we are dining out, it is going to be hard to keep sodium in check. Okay, so I am telling you that these are the most Mediterranean style menu options at this restaurant. But if you look at the nutrition facts, we're still pushing 12, 15, 1700 milligrams of sodium in any one of these dishes. Okay, so I am not blind to that fact. These are still going to be high sodium because that's just how it is when we dine out. So when we dine out, we do the best that we possibly can with what we have in front of us. If we're going to something like Qdoba, we made that rice and bean bowl earlier. They've got a mango chicken bowl. Maybe you're trying to cut back on some carbohydrates. Maybe you're trying to keep blood sugars in check. Maybe you don't have the rice and you just use the black beans because that's going to be a more blood sugar friendly type of carbohydrate there. They also have a citrus lime chicken salad that would fit the Mediterranean diet principles. But there are, depending upon where you're at, some Mediterranean Mediterranean restaurants in our area. I told you I'm in Battle Creek, and they just opened up a Mediterranean restaurant in Albion, 301 North Clinton Street, Galazio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, as a Mediterranean restaurant that I've heard great things about. Kalamazoo has 2 of them. I've not been to either of these, so I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this. Zuruna and Shawarma King. I've heard great things about Shawarma King, but I've not been there myself. And then in Portage, they have Mediterranean options at the Bab El Salam. So just some things to check out, right? Maybe you haven't had a lot of Mediterranean dishes at home yourself, and you just kind of want to check out what's the variety look like. Take a weekend to dine out one of these restaurants and kind of experience what the Mediterranean diet looks like. All right, here are my recipe resources from you. I shared this Mediterranean dish. All right, Jill says both Kalamazoo choices are very good. Very good. Happy to hear that. Thank you. These are the recipe resources that I had shared, mediterraneandish.com. Mediterraneandish.com is one single individual woman that manages this website. She is from the Mediterranean. She has an Instagram and a Facebook page. She does some live cooking on Mediterranean recipes. She has a wealth of information on the Mediterranean diet. More information on, how to choose, healthy olive oils and how to use more olive oils, all the recipes you could think of, even baked goods, right? Olive oil cake, she's got a recipe for. So highly recommend that one for continued learning. And then I told you about Taste of Home and the bulgur bean dish, but Taste of Home has this collection of favorite Mediterranean recipes. I realize that you cannot click on these links, but they will be on the class summary for you. And then eatingwell.com also has a lot of Mediterranean diet recipes. And actually, hold on just a second, because I can add those links right to the chat. Give me a moment and I'll add those links to the chat in case you want to click on them before class is over, and then you'll have them already. You don't have to wait for the posting of the class summary. So Eating Well, Taste of Home, Mediterranean dish, really great options for more Mediterranean style learning. All right. So hopefully we reviewed the basics of the Mediterranean diet. I think we did. I'm hoping you guys are leaving this class having learned at least 3 new ways and new ideas to follow the Mediterranean style of eating at home, and that you are able to identify when you go out to a restaurant how to choose more meals that are Mediterranean. Now, Nikki had shared that Tuscan salmon pasta that she had made the other day, and she has added that ingredient list to the chat. So check out the chat. Tuscan salmon pasta, she says linguine with salmon, thyme, olive oil, cannellini beans, sun-dried tomatoes, and garlic. I know it's only 9 a.m., but I am looking forward to dinner. Thank you for sharing that. All right, now I want to hear what your guys' goals are, right? So, oh, a Taste of Home recipe. Perfect. Love it. Talking my language. I want to hear from you guys. What's one thing that you learned today that you are planning on using in the coming week? What is one thing you learned that you plan on using in the coming week? I'll go ahead and unmute or share in the chat for me. What are you taking away from this class? Being more mindful when shopping for meal planning. Yeah, having those ingredients available in the pantry, right? So you can have them to actually prepare those meals, and having those meals even thought of, beforehand going to the grocery store can be helpful. Adding more veggies, low fat, portion control. Yes, adding more veggies, portion control, absolutely. And I want to just address that low fat concept, right? In the Mediterranean diet, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a strict low-fat diet. Yes, there's lots of vegetables. Yes, there's lean proteins, but there's also those fatty fish, and there is an abundance, a use of olive oil. What I would say is that you guys are, if you're looking at your fat choices, replacing any of those saturated fats that you're using, like butters and creams and those bacon and sausage, replacing those with unsaturated fats like olive oil and avocado, that is where you're going to get a lot of heart benefit, is replacing your saturated fats with unsaturated. More veggies, more inspired to change things up and share the links to recipes with my family and friends. Yes, pass it on. More on fruits and vegetables. You got it. Very good. I'm glad you guys were able to take away that information from today's class. I appreciate you guys so much in attending this Mediterranean class. I want to share with you guys also our upcoming classes for the month of September. Our next virtual cooking class is going to be on Wednesday, September 20th. It is going to be from 2 to 3 p.m. and it is football season, isn't it? So they're going to go over some game day fare, healthy recipes to prepare on game day. And then we did have to make a change to the What Good Cooks Know class. It was going to originally be on September 14th. That has had to be changed to September 21st. That is going to be from 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. So What Good Cooks Know. And then we are starting some in-person classes again. So we've got a Boost Your Immunity class that's going to be available. We're going to talk about all things, prevention as far as cold and flu season is concerned. And we are going to be doing an immunity boosting smoothie during the class. So you'll get to taste test a recipe there in the class. So on September 28th is going to be the date, 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. One class is going to be at the Bronson Wellness Center in South Haven with Isabel. The other one is going to be at the Bronson Battle Creek Outpatient Center, second floor, and that will be with myself. I hope to see you guys there. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. If you guys are willing, before you leave, click on the link that I am going to put in the chat. It is a survey link. And not necessarily like a survey is like, how did I do today? But really a survey as far as what do you want to hear from our classes, right? What ideas do you guys have for us moving forward? What do you